My students, welcome back. We're going to go through now. This is 2.15, Mapping the Ring of Fire. Your paper looks like that, okay? Where you have a front side with a map, where you're going to be actually drawing all the events that capture the edges of the Ring of Fire. Very exciting, very prominent world feature. And then on the back, there's some questions for you to consider what you have just mapped. So let's dive right in and talk about the basic natural disasters that define where the Ring of Fire occurs on the Earth. Let's check it out together, shall we? All right. So we have to consider the two natural disasters that we have done the most work with in recent weeks: volcanoes and earthquakes, right? So those two are the common features, with the Ring of Fire, of course, getting its nickname from all the volcanic activity, magma chambers releasing their contents above the surface, and then the lava, ash clouds, poison gas, lava bombs, and of course the tremors that go with those things, with the emptying of magma chambers, with the violent eruption and the tremors in the earth. They all link together, one impacting the other, and back and forth continuously all around the Ring of Fire. So let's go right to it and consider volcanoes and earthquakes. Okay. All right, so you'll be mapping those two. Take a look at your paper for a moment. Look down here at the key. And on the bottom, we've got volcano written as a triangle to symbolize a mountain of fire. And then a quake is a star shape meant to symbolize the epicenters of those earthquakes. So we're going to do two volcanoes together on the paper. They're already marked. Take a look. And then two earthquakes, again, already marked on the paper. But let's see how we got to those locations. You'll find the process is fairly simple. This is a graded activity. Make sure you turn it in before the end of the quarter, and you'll be good to go with your grade. Here we go. So, looking at the paper, you can see I've got a screen capture of it right here in front of you, and over here is a list of coordinates: longitude, north, south, and east and west, latitude, longitude, and we're going to be mapping those together. On your example, 4 of them have already been marked. Take a look at South America. 2 volcanoes, 2 earthquakes. These are the first 2 of the volcanoes list. You can see I'm floating my mouse over them here in the video. Those are the first 2 red triangles that you see down on South America. Then over here, the first 2 earthquakes, also marked here in South America. By the time you're finished with all of these coordinates, you're going to have a pathway that goes around the Pacific, the ocean, and the tectonic plate, and then you're going to really see the Ring of Fire as it truly is, with actual historical events. This is not some fictitious grouping of coordinates. These are researched actual events that happened right at or near these coordinates in recent history. So here we go. Let's set up your paper with a star down at the bottom. I believe it's already on there. If it isn't, notice the dotted line dividing the world into a Western hemisphere and an Eastern hemisphere there. Okay? That dotted line is the starting point for finding where these events occur. So look at the very bottom, next to the word Antarctica, on the dotted line, the big bright yellow star. Make sure your map has such a star on it at that spot, and have the west and east pointing the directions indicated here. You also see them indicated on the digital map in this video. So starting at the star every single time. Okay. Now that star, let me fix something here. That star, first we're going to go left or right, and then we're going to go up to wherever the north-south part happens to be of all these numbers. So let's take the first one, and you see it on your paper. 75 west, 45 south. Okay? I can find 75 west, 45 south every time, starting at the star. Here we go. Down at the star, I'm going to go across to the right. Okay? There's, watch my mouse in this video. Floating across to 100 west, there's 90 west, 80 west. We have to go a little bit further to get to 75 west. So from 80 across to 75. If I go to 60, I've gone way too far. So I have to keep it near the 80. That would be about where 75 happens to be. Now, I have to figure out where the other half of that coordinate is, 45 south. So I'm going to go up along this imaginary curving line next to the 80 line, but it's a 75 line, okay? And I'm going to go up to 45 south. Here's 60. This is where 55 would be. And right about here would be 45. It's below the 40. Okay, if I go above 40, now I'm getting less than 40. I don't want that. So I'm going to stay here, and I'm going to figure my first volcano will be right there. And then on my paper, again, I'll show you on the paper, starting at the star, going across to the west to where 75 would be, and then up to where 45 south would be. I'm going to make my first volcano. And it will look like that. Okay. Let's do one more. And I'm going to do a check mark on my first coordinate. The next one says 70 west and 35 south. Let's start at the star. Again, always starting at my star. Going across, follow my mouse on the digital screen now, across to 70. So it'll be halfway between 80 and 60. 70 would be right about there. Okay. And then I'm going to go up to where it reaches the 35 south. So I'm going to go up. There is 60. Here's where 50 would be. Here's 40. I'm going to go a little bit higher to where I think 35 would be, right about there. And I'm going to make my second volcano right there. So on my paper, again, starting at the start, going across to 70, which is halfway between 80 and 60, and then up to where 35 would be, right about there. Make another triangle. So now I've got my first two volcanoes drawn. Check mark the second one. Two of them. So at this time, two volcanoes are in place. Yay, making some good progress. Now let's do two of the quakes. I'm going to put my red pen away, grab my blue one, because again, the symbols are a little different. I want a blue star this time, okay? So, starting at the same star at the bottom, my yellow star in the middle of the bottom there, my first coordinate says 85 west and 50 south. Cool. I'm going to start at the star on the digital screen, just as an example. Go across. There's 100. Here's 90. And I want 85. So if I've gone to 80, I've gone a little too far. So it's a little bit shy of the 80, right about there. Okay. And now I want to come up to 50 south, which will be halfway between 40 and 60. Okay. So from that location, right here, 85 south, up this curving line where 85 would be, halfway between 40 and 60, would put it right here out in the ocean. Ooh, logic. Little sanity check here. Is it possible for an earthquake to happen under the ocean? Could earthquakes be in the crust under the water? They could. They happen all the time. These sub-ocean earthquakes. So there's a major quake that happened in history at that location underneath the ocean, the oceanic crust. So I'm going to start here, just to recap, and I'm going to go across to where 85 west and 50 south. So I come over to 85, right just shy of 80, and up to 50, right about there. Make my mark. And that's my location right there. Okay. And check mark on the first one. Now let's do one more together. 70 west, 25 south. Okay. Starting at my star, I'm going to go across to 70 west. All right, there's 100, 90, 80, 70. It'll be halfway between 60 and 80. Cool. And from that location, I'm going to go up to 25 south. So not quite to 20, but 25 south. There's a line already in place at 20. So it'll be a little further than 20, so right below it. I'm going to go up this curving imaginary line up to 25 south, which will put it right about here on that dotted line. That's handy. That dotted line is at about 25 south. Okay. Between the 80 and 60 west. That's 70 west. And that's where my next star would be. There it is. Okay. So now I've got both of my earthquakes, my first two earthquakes plotted. I'm going to do this on the paper, double check and make sure I do it right. Starting at the star, going across to halfway between 80 and 60 right there, and up to the dotted line right there is where my second earthquake will be. And there it is. Okay. Practice a few more of these, double checking as you go, just to make sure you're starting in the right place and that you are, sorry, hang on one second, let me fix this star. And making sure that you're comfortable with making sure you're going the right direction and going to the right north or south, east, and west. Okay, I'm going to pick one more at random from a different part of the list that isn't exactly west and south. Like the first examples we've been doing are west and south. I'm going to pick one that is, I don't know, let's pick the last volcano. Why don't we do that? Let's do the very last volcano here. Okay? 170 east and 40 south. So starting from my star, 170 east. Ooh, east is going the other direction, not that direction below. Okay, so I'm going to follow east now. 170. So from 180, it shouldn't be too far away. 170 is about halfway between 180, 160. East is just not even past the end of this arrow. So it's right below the word Zealand. Okay, it's right about here. And then I'm going to go up to 40 south. So from this line.
Attention drivers, it's Friday.
Announcement, bear with me.
Just getting ready to
I'm going to go
to move your cars from the west side over where the driving range is. We need you to have those moved by 2:30, please, so that the drivers and students can drive around there. Remember, by 2:30 today. If you're parked on the west side, please move it by 2:30.
Thanks, Melody. Okay, so we're halfway between 160 and 180, and we're going to go up to 40 south. And that looks like right on the W of New Zealand. Right on the W. There must be a volcano right near the shore of New Zealand. So I'm going to double check. 170 east. Yep, I went left. I did this correctly. And then up to 40 south, right on the line. That's handy. So to recap, from my starting point, I'm going east, right? Only a little bit, because 170 is just barely between 160 and 180. And I'm going to go straight up to the, on my map, to where New Zealand happens to be. Right. So I'm going to make my mark there for, this one should be right at that location. Okay. There it is right there. And now I've put a volcano in New Zealand. I'm going to put a check mark as my last volcano, and I'm going to start filling in the rest. So continue your mapping, map out all these different volcanoes and earthquakes, and then don't forget, flip to the back, and there's more things for you to do on the back of your mapping exercise, the Ring of Fire. Okay. So, quick bit of help for side 2. Notice at the top, it has 5 locations, okay, right there. The Andes Mountains, Alaska, Japan, the Philippines, and New Zealand. Then you've got some blanks to put a check mark, okay? I'll do the first one with you. South America, according to the map we just built, right? South America, the Andes Mountains, okay? Take a look where I've labeled it on this slide to assist you. At those locations here along the Andes Mountains, we have already put volcanoes and earthquakes. So on the back, where we have South America, is it just earthquakes or volcanoes and earthquakes? Well, definitely both. So I'm going to take my pen and check mark both. Okay. Continue that for the other 4 locations, Alaska, Japan, the Philippines, New Zealand. Then continue on down, follow the directions carefully, answer the final section in complete sentences with your own thoughts about where we are in Utah and are we under threat from the Ring of Fire. Okay. And if you're curious about where Utah is on this map, look at this little blue dot on the on this map on the screen. That is the Great Salt Lake. So right here, feel free to pause it. Where the arrow is sitting at this moment, that is Utah right here. Based on the marks you make in complete sentences, explain why you believe that we are under threat or not under threat of the Ring of Fire. Okay. So finish the exercise, finish the activity, send me pictures, turn it in, and you will have your grade on a fun mapping activity. Thanks for watching, and reach out to me if you have any questions through the normal school channels. Thanks for watching.